tonight.
He gave us no choice.
The impeachment of Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States.
This is the most partisan impeachment in the history of the United States.
With the debate ahead of the full House vote ringing through the halls of Congress.
This as a congressional spending bill breaks records avoiding a shutdown, but leaving American taxpayers footing the bill.
Plus,
I'm going to go to President Trump and say FISA needs to be reformed.
The secret court behind the U.S. government's surveillance program issues a rare rebuke.
All this and more tonight on Fake Nation.
As the members take this time to consider far-reaching legislation and consider historic constitutional action, give them wisdom and discernment.
House Chaplain Patrick Conroy offering a prayer this historic day in Washington.
The House preparing to vote tonight to impeach the 45th President of the United States. Welcome to Faith Nation, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. After months of investigation, hours of public and private hearings, and long debates, it all comes down to this. The U.S. House of Representatives will soon kick off a historic vote to impeach President Donald J. Trump.
To break down the day, we're joined by CBN News chief political analyst David Brody, White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. But we begin tonight with Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill, where the air is, I'm sure, Abby, quite thick.
That is correct, John. It is a tense day of debate as Congress inches closer to the official vote on the two articles of impeachment against President Trump: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress.
He gave us no choice.
Dressed in black, referring to the day as solemn, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi declared Trump guilty.
The president used the power of his public office to obtain an improper personal political benefit at the expense of America's national security.
Republicans claim the accusations are a sham, years in the making.
Why do we keep calling this a solemn occasion when you've been wanting to do this ever since the gentleman was elected?
Insisting House Democrats have no case.
What we found here today is a president who did not do as being charged.
On the House floor, the two parties had fiery back and forth.
Since day one, the Democrats have made it clear that they wanted to move towards impeachment well before any of the accusations took place.
That is unacceptable. That is unconscionable. That is unconstitutional.
The latest December polls show that when it comes to support for impeachment and the removal of President Trump, neither side is substantially moving the needle. Outside the Capitol, protesters called for President Trump's removal. The House is on track to hold that final vote later tonight, with almost all lawmakers expected to vote in line with their party's leadership.
Thank you, Abby. Right now, let's bring in David Brody. David, let's take a step back and look at this through the long angle of history. Talk a little bit, if you can, about the significance of this vote, the third time in history for a president to be impeached.
Well, right, John. Look, with this impeachment, I mean, I really believe American politics has changed forever. This is the first impeachment vote ever done solely along party lines. It's the first impeachment in modern times where an actual special counsel wasn't used to investigate. Instead, it was the opposition party who set the investigation rules. And look, also, John and Jenna, public opinion has not shifted an iota, pretty much. So this is not about we the people. Therefore, the historical significance of this day is simply this: impeachment has been turned into a political weapon to yield against a president. And I have to say, today is really not about Donald Trump. It's about a future Democrat president who's now going to face the specter of impeachment if Republicans gain control of the House. In short, a republic has now turned into a dangerous game of political retribution, and that's what happens when basically you impeach a president without a solid majority behind you and not one single Republican to vote with you. That is not consensus. That's recklessness.
All right. Well, President Trump, he maintains his innocence and continues to call this a witch hunt. Tonight, he's at a rally in Michigan. Let's go to Ben at the White House. Ben, this impeachment vote could come down while he is on stage.
Yeah, Jenna, it could very well. The White House said President Trump is pretty much working all day, but is being briefed by staff and could catch some of the proceedings between meetings. But earlier today, President Trump lashed out at Democrats and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, tweeting, "Can you believe that I will be impeached today by the radical left? Do nothing, Democrats, and I did nothing wrong. A terrible thing. read the transcripts. This should never have happened to another president, and again say a prayer. Now, Vice President Mike Pence also weighed in, calling the investigation a sham. We've heard that before from the president, blaming Democrats for seeking to, quote, overturn the will of the American people. Take a listen.
Truthfully, friends, what's happening on Capitol Hill today is a disgrace. From the first day of this administration, Democrats in Washington have been trying to overturn the results of the last election. And they're back at it again today with their partisan impeachment vote. You know, the truth is, they're trying to impeach this president because they know they can't defeat this president.
And the vice president is talking about the upcoming 2020 election. It's been almost 21 years to the day that the House took action against President Bill Clinton, and now their sights are set on Trump. In a 6-page letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi Tuesday, the president accused Democrats of declaring open war on American democracy, calling it an illegal partisan attempted coup. He also pushed back against the process, insisting more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. He even accuses Pelosi of being disingenuous when she has said in the past that she does in fact pray for him. As Jenna talked about at the top of the show, the vote could come down during the president's rally in Battle Creek, Michigan tonight. So, John and Jenna, he could be impeached by the House while in front of supporters, which means we could get an immediate reaction from him on stage.
Yeah, could be a wild night. All right, thanks, Ben. Well, following the House vote, the impeachment process heads to the Senate. Let's go back to Abby now. Abby, how quickly do you expect things to play out in the Senate?
Well, Jenna, phase 1 in the Senate trial is expected to last about 2 weeks, with each side getting about a week to present their case. But the question remains there whether or not they will call witnesses. Now, Democrats would very much like to see witnesses called forth. They've already submitted about 4 people that they want to hear from. But top Republicans like Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Lindsey Graham, who's chairman of the Judiciary Committee, have said many times that they do not think hearing from witnesses is necessary in the Senate. And McConnell said just yesterday that he does not believe President Trump is going to be removed from office. He wants to keep the Senate trial short. He wants to proceed to a vote on the 2 articles of impeachment quickly. He believes that will lead to President Trump's acquittal in the Senate. But the key for him there is he will need 51 senators to vote to move directly to those 2 articles of impeachment without hearing from witnesses. And that's where things could get tricky for him.
All right, thank you, Abby. And joining the conversation now, Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections, and once again, David. Nathan, good to have you. First question, you know, historic day here. You know, the president is going to be impeached. Expected later this evening. This looks like it's going to be a party line vote.
Yeah, I mean, I view this as a historic event, but potentially politically insignificant. And what I mean by that, David mentioned that the polling, the opinion around the president has solidified. The president's job approval rating today is virtually the same as it was in late September when Speaker Pelosi said that they were going to move forward with an inquiry. It's virtually the same as it was in January of this year. Opinion around the president is solid and polarizing, and so that's why I start as skeptical that this is going to be the game changer, because in the media, we tend to treat everything as the game changer. And with this president, when the dust settles, it usually turns out to be exactly where we started.
David, the most recent polling shows a reversal of fortune. Trump's approval rating is moving up. Meanwhile, support for impeachment slides. What does that mean for the 30 or so Democrats who come from Trump districts?
It means there's going to be a day-to-day tracker. I guess, Nathan, you'll be tracking those districts big time as to, you know, the ups and downs and how it goes. Look, they all say this is a constitutional type decision. This isn't a political one. Okay, that's fine. But there's an asterisk with that. I would just say this, that they may not think it's political, but I don't really think it's ever been about them and this decision in their district and their political futures. I think this is about what do the voters in their districts want. Clearly, these are Trump districts. And even if they're not fully on board with against impeachment, it's definitely split. And if you have a split district and you're voting for something very partisan right now in impeachment, I think that does not bode well for you in the future. We'll see.
What's the incentive for a lot of these Democrats in these swing districts? What's the incentive for them to vote for impeachment, Nathan?
I think, you know, maybe I'm too optimistic. I tend to take some politicians at their word. I think that they don't view this as gaining politically, that they view it as a responsibility in trying to hold the president accountable, and some of them are wrestling with there could be political fallout from it. What I think is interesting of those 30 Trump district Democrats is that the Trump campaign kind of did a poll and grouped them all together, but all those districts aren't created equal, meaning in some districts, Republicans have a top-tier challenger. In other districts, they don't have a top-tier challenger. And so just to kind of group them all together, I think maybe overestimates the political impact of it, because some of those are going to be harder to win than others.
David, you tweeted earlier today about Nancy Pelosi wearing black. What was you seem to suggest that that wasn't the right color for her to wear. Perhaps her, along with the rest of the Democrats, talking about how this is a somber and this is a sad occasion. But you say that it probably didn't match with what the Democrats are trying to do.
They've been trying to impeach this president since day one. Okay, so this idea that this is a sad day, I guess you can make the case on paper because, you never want to impeach a president overall, but they have had a disdain for the president. I mean, they've admitted it. It's coming from their own mouths. Don't listen to me, listen to them. She was wearing black today, and I think obviously that was a signal. I said, well, you might want to save the black outfit for November 2020. You may have to resurrect that outfit then, because this, I believe, as we've talked about before, I believe this will be somewhat of an electoral landslide in November 2020 for Trump. I really do believe that, and I wasn't on that wagon before, but I think in this case, I think Democrats have totally overplayed their hand.
Nathan, we were talking a little bit before the show, and you were saying that if you take the basis from 1998, there's a little bit of a different tack than what David just recommended.
Yeah, I mean, 1998, that's kind of viewed as the template because it's the only time that we can really go on, and it's viewed as there was a big backlash against the Republicans for impeaching President Clinton when, in that 1998 election, it resulted in no net change in the United States Senate and Democrats gaining 5 seats. I mean, we talk about this back, 5 seats. And so let's just say that happens again. Republicans would still be 13, 14 seats short in the House. There is the presidential impact. President Clinton didn't have to run for re-election after this happened. And I expect this to be a close and competitive election. And one thing that's different from 2020 that wasn't the case in 2016 is that the Democratic Party is unified and energized in a way that they weren't in 2016. I think they took the race for granted, and they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. Now that President Trump is in the Oval Office making decisions, the Democratic Party is energized in a way that any single Democrat couldn't even come close to energizing them.
The one asterisk to that will be what candidate do they put up in the general, and we'll see, because it typically goes from there downward. Yeah.
We will see. All right, Nathan Gonzalez, David, Abigail, and Ben, thank you all.
Thanks.
Well, coming up, funding the fight for religious freedom around the world, what the Senate is doing to make that possible.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
It's like a great attraction. Let's start to chain reaction. Pulling on more satisfaction. I love the way this joy makes me move. Yeah, I got that. I dance around because I know it. I move around because I got it.
Well, welcome back. First the House, now the Senate. Lawmakers in the upper chamber following suit to avoid a possible government shutdown by Friday. Senators are now debating a $1.4 trillion government spending package the House approved, giving the president a victory on his U.S.-Mexico border wall. The package also, though, gives Democrats spending increases for domestic programs. Well, a newly released Senate spending bill would reauthorize funding for the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, also known as USCIRF. Language from a larger bill would renew the watchdog for 3 years. The bipartisan compromise to reauthorize USCIRF comes after months of debate on the issue. A spokeswoman for Senator Marco Rubio says the move is, quote, vital for continuing to advance religious freedom worldwide.
Well, Tony Perkins is the chair of USCIRF and president of the Family Research Council, and he joins us now for more. Tony, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you.
So, Tony, you know, there's been some back and forth between lawmakers over the commission's reauthorization. Tell us about the negotiation process here.
Well, it was pretty intense, as the original language really would have restricted the work of the commission. We saw that as really unworkable. Putting a lot of our operating procedures into the statute and adding additional ones that really limited the effectiveness of the commissioners by restraining their ability to speak. We were able to negotiate a much better reauthorization measure, in part because of, in large part because of Senator Rubio's staff working on it, also Senator Manchin's staff on the Democratic side. So it was a bipartisan effort. We finally got to where I think we need to be. Not 100% happy with the outcome, but it's workable, which will allow the commission to go forward and continue to do its vital work in promoting religious freedom internationally.
Tony, for those people who aren't as familiar with the work of USCIRF, explain how the commission is fighting for religious freedom worldwide.
Really good question. The commission is made up of 9 members. It's a bipartisan commission. We're nominated by Republicans and Democrats, and it's surprising, but it's probably the one commission, the one entity in Washington, D.C. that truly is bipartisan. As commissioners, we all get along, a great group of men and women who are focused strictly on the issue of international religious freedom. We've been around for a little over 20 years. What we do, we look at and monitor countries in terms of the standards of religious freedom and those that are denying religious freedom, which is a fundamental human right. And we don't use an American definition. We use the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights and its definition of religious freedom in Article 18. And what we do is we report to the president, we report to the Secretary of State and to Congress, making recommendations on what we can do as a country in our foreign policy, using sanctions and other tools that we have to promote religious liberty abroad. And I'll have to say, under this administration, we are certainly making some progress.
So Senator Rubio's office called the commission vital. Tony, in your own words, why is it vital to have a federal commission on this international issue?
Well, it's the only thing we focus on. We're not distracted by other issues. We were created, as I said, a little over 20 years ago. Former Virginia Congressman Frank Wolf, one of the key architects of this. And this is, so we have a commission that is solely focused on international religious freedom. That's all we do. It's all we look at. That was actually a part of the contention in this reauthorization. Some wanted to expand our mandate to look at other human rights issues, and that would have diluted our focus and I think hampered our effectiveness. And so we're focused just on this one issue, unlike the State Department that has other issues that they have to consider in their foreign policy. We make recommendations solely upon the issue of religious freedom.
Final question, and we've just got a little under a minute left. Mark Silk in Religious News Service said, let the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom expire. He talks about the group being a micro-agency independent of the State Department. What is he missing?
Well, he's missing the work that we've done for 20 years. A number of people like Andrew Brunson and others that have been released. And right now we're at this moment in time where we've got alignment with the president, vice president, secretary of state, ambassador at large for religious freedom, the Commission on International Religious Freedom, advocates on both sides of the aisle in Congress. We can get more done going forward in the next few years on religious freedom than I believe at any time in the history of the agency.
Tony Perkins with USCIRF and the Family Research Council, thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you as well.
The FISA court issues a rare rebuke of the FBI. Up next, how the Bureau landed itself in hot water with one of the nation's top courts.
Yeah, I got that. I'm dancing around because I'm loyal. I'm moving around because I got it. Yours in the heart. I'm dancing around because I'm loyal. I'm moving around because I got it. Yours in the heart.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the home front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back. In an unprecedented move, the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Court has issued a rare and strong rebuke against the FBI.
It comes after an Inspector General's report revealed a number of major inaccuracies in how the Bureau got clearance to surveil Trump campaign aide Carter Page. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips has the details.
The rebuke came in the form of a 4-page court order. The judge, obviously aggravated that the court had granted electronic surveillance of Carter Page based on bad information on FISA warrant applications. The Inspector General's report highlighted the inaccuracies last week, including omissions about Democrats funding research for the infamous Steele dossier, which was a linchpin for probable cause on the applications. Also omitted the fact that Carter Page was not working for a foreign government to influence the election. The court order says, in part, the FBI's handling of the Carter Page applications as portrayed in the OIG report calls into question whether information contained in other FBI applications is reliable. Therefore, it goes on to say, the government must provide to the court written proof that every application submitted to FISC was accurate. That proof must be submitted by January 10th, 2020. The way the system currently works with the so-called secret court is the FBI and Justice Department presents evidence to the court that is supposed to be, quote, scrupulously accurate, and the court relies solely on that information to make its decision, something that could change.
The check is to have a defense attorney, to have a public trial, and secret courts really were not intended to examine crime in America or to examine political campaigns.
Lindsey Graham says while the FISA system is essential, there's an obvious problem. In this case, he wants to start with those who signed the warrant applications.
If it's not a system problem, that tells me that people in the Carter Page case got drunk with power, had a personal agenda, and they acted on it. If it's a systematic abuse, it tells me that the FISA process needs to be dramatically reformed. Either way, it's bad.
In addition to the FBI answering the court order, the IG's office is also going to conduct an audit looking into the accuracy of past FISA warrant applications. Findings could prompt significant legal action. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Thank you, Eric. Well, to the courts, where the Trump administration and Republicans are dramatically reshaping the country's judiciary. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell teeing up the Senate to vote on more than a dozen judicial nominations before the end of the year. Republicans have prioritized confirming President Trump's conservative nominees, and they've made history doing it. So far, they've confirmed a record 174 judges. This includes 50 Circuit Court picks and 2 Supreme Court justices, all lifetime appointments.
Coming up, how a 5-year-old is teaching her community about generosity this holiday season.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No Spur Falls, man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Well, finally tonight, a great story. A California kindergartner is inspiring others by her desire to help those less fortunate than her this Christmas.
Now, it all started when 5-year-old Caitlin Hardy overheard a parent say they couldn't afford their kids' school lunch.
She started asking me a bunch of questions, and I tried to answer as best as I could without too much for a 5-year-old, and just explain to her that some people aren't as fortunate as us. Her idea was, could we do a hot cocoa and cookie stand?
And Caitlin used the profits from her cookie and cocoa stand to pay off the lunch debt balances of students at her school district. 123 kids now have clear balances. Good for her. It's
As you
nice
were
to
saying,
see that goodwill.
She probably made a lot of cookies.
That's a lot of cookies, 123 debts.
Well, good for her leading the way. Thanks for watching and have a great night.